Subaru underneath a tree and you couldn't see it. But
And
no,
Madam Chair, whenever
really
you're
did.
ready.
I'm not, like, distraught, freaking out. We're like, honey,
Trying
it's not a
to,
matter of when you dig, like, or if you get offended, better, it's when. So doing it in our property with a friend, like, it's an accident. That's what they're saying. But, I think Sue said she was just gonna pay out of pocket to not even.
okay,
Yeah, quite. So I was like,
now
oh,
I'm ready.
I don't know. I think that might cost us more, but
Okay,
either way.
I'm gonna call this to order. So, first off, welcome to Land Use and Planning Standing Committee, Tuesday, July 8th. First up, review the June 24th and June 3rd
Sorry,
meeting
I did
minutes.
not, no, I didn't even read your email until this morning, 'cause it's morning time, but I did see
It
your
looks
notes.
great,
I did see
yeah.
your notes, and it wasn't the same format I followed, but it worked. So,
okay?
yeah, no. And
No,
again, that was my bad for not sending you something.
So I'll make a motion to approve the June 10th and June 24th meeting minutes.
You want a second?
Okay, there we go.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so next up, we're gonna jump into the growth policy. So that is up for action. With our last council meeting, we had a discussion of creating a few amendments. Sorry, adding a few amendments to the growth policy. Specifically, I put together a list of those, sent it out to the council for review, made a few additions per Sandy as well as per Patty's
Mhm.
recommendations. I have not gotten the most updated ones out to everybody yet, but actually, let me
see.
be a co-host, and then that way I can get this up on the screen.
Which one are you pulling up?
Hold on, one sec. I was not prepared. I apologize.
Do you want me to print copies of yours out for everybody too?
Yeah, and let me send you an updated copy. I've been kind of working on it all week as stuff has been coming in, so. I'm gonna mail it to you right now.
Okay, let me go ahead and
Nope,
make
just
you,
Yep.
Hold tight.
and you didn't join audio, correct?
It is.
Okay, perfect. That was what I heard.
Yeah, you're usually.
And then we can have this printed for
I know.
tonight as well.
Yeah.
I'm able to, like, just type it in as they were going. I was like, I can't.
I didn't wanna have it finalized until after this meeting. So,
All right, I'm looking at are you pulling up the amendments, or are you pulling up the actual growth policy?
I'm doing a lot right now.
Cool.
So I'm sending him the amendments so he can print them.
Perfect.
And then I'm also gonna put it up on the screen, just for anybody, we don't have any viewers at home, but for prosperity's sake. I mean,
And then
that,
I'll print that for the. Had you seen, Jeff, did you guys?
I had sent a
Yeah.
copy to Al, and he forwarded it on to Jeff. There's not many changes from what I had put in.
No.
And so essentially, now that I should be able to co-host, okay, I'm gonna share.
And then Sandy's, yours was just edits to Chelsea's, is that correct?
It was just specifically from the Community Foundation.
Yeah. Okay.
We're gonna,
And if you wanna forward that to me, then I'll
I
print it.
just sent it to you.
Sorry?
So, should be in your inbox unless I messed up something. So kind of what we have, I'm gonna make that a little bigger until we can get that printed. So first off, amendments to the growth policy. And I tried to make this as detailed as possible, so if you guys do wanna have the growth policy in front of you, you can play along. First amendment that we had looked at were under, or the first amendments we had looked at were under goals, objectives, and action plans, specifically in land use. So on page 13, goal 1, objectives, fourth bullet point, the updated language would read, ensure new development within the historic overlay continues the historic architectural and neighborhood character. The change for that is originally it had read the entirety of Red Lodge, but I think we have multiple examples to where we don't necessarily share that same historic character. Specifically, you think of the golf course, fires, there's all these little areas. So granted, there is this historic section of town and more of our downtown area, but I don't necessarily think that should be expanded to the entirety of Red Lodge.
Mhm.
So that was just a point of clarification. On page 14, goal number 4, objectives, adding a bullet point, reviewing the city's zoning regulations and state statutes, provide specific regulation on marijuana businesses that ensures that public health and safety of the community, as well as ensures the public health and safety of the community, as well as maintains the historic uses of our downtown. So when we had the conversation a few months ago about marijuana businesses, it was recommended by legal that we do include something in the growth policy. The reason I believe the planning board did not at the time was because it was right when we were finishing the final approval.
Just getting
So
it going.
timing on that just got a bit messy, so I think this is a really easy way to make that objective, as well as keeping it very clear.
It's a pretty straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward, and I think it kind of fits with what our intent was. So I looked to Jeff, I looked to Sandy, other planning board members that were okay with that language.
And I'm kind of guessing that, when it says, as well as maintain the historic uses of our downtown, is the design to eliminate marijuana businesses from the historic downtown.
Correct.
Thank you.
So that is kind of the intent there, just recognizing and understanding how downtown is represented to our public. So, doesn't necessarily say you can't allow it, but it just says recognizing the historic uses of that space. So page 15, goals, number 5, objectives, first bullet point, support the city's adopted night sky initiative. I was going to change that.
The dark sky?
Hang on, let me read page 15.
One, we don't have, and Jody brought this clarification to me, we don't have an adopted initiative.
We don't.
I thought I had made this change, but,
Here's the one I was really gonna give you.
Page 15.
thank you. So bear with me.
Wait,
I'm
which
gonna-
goal was it? Goal number 5.
Goal number 5,
Continue to support a relish architecture that encourage development and outdoor advertising. Seems like,
so, yeah, so we had changed that to support, and again, I want to change this really quick, support the city's dark skies. I have this written down.
And the version I did, that's what I did, I was continue to support
There it
the
is,
Red Lodge
yep.
Dark Skies. And I had concern with the group, because why are we enforcing, it was like, it's the concept, it's not like we're supporting one group and not another group, or.
So here's
but
what.
doesn't that contradict like some of the other?
Hold. I'm gonna bring the conversation one at a
Wait,
time. So again, that's where I was corrected. I thought we had an adopted Dark Skies initiative, but what we do have, and again, the printout that he just gave you, page 15, goal number 5, objectives, first bullet point. Support the city's adopted energy conservation plan and implemented night sky standards, or we'll say dark sky standards, within the city's zoning regulation with consideration to maintaining the vibrant character of a historic downtown. So specifically what that does is we already have policies in place. We want to continue to support those policies, but also per numerous loud conversations about lighting in our downtown area. This comes from growth policy conversations, downtown conversations, and then when also the outdoor advertising conversation happened, 2 years ago, there was a lot of feedback, that's going to be the positive word that I use, about not wanting to dim downtown. And I think that there's a way that we can do both, but again, just keeping in this consideration for maintaining the vibrant character of the downtown. Yes, Sandy?
When you say implemented night sky standards, what are those? Who has night sky standards?
So again, I'm gonna have to change that to dark skies,
Or,
but that's already in our zoning code.
so, okay, now I'm, sorry, I'm not tracking. So on this page, I have page 15, goal 5, objective, first bullet, neither one match. On the handout. Okay, never mind, one says action, one says objective, just, I can't read.
Yep.
But either way, so what you're saying is, these are the amendments that we're making to
Correct.
Goal 5. Because
Yeah.
I feel like,
Because the way it is now is to develop an initiative for a dark skies program,
and I
or
kind of,
develop a dark skies initiative in Red Lodge.
I kind of like the energy conservation plan with the night sky standards.
Yep, and that's what we're
Versus-
trying to put in, because
Because
that's what
you
we,
put in dark skies and people start thinking western Montana, where there are actual dark skies.
and again, we do have, in our zoning code, an entire, God, I wanna say it's 20 pages
Of lighting.
of lighting
Yeah,
standards
right.
that are specific to the energy conservation plan, as well as dark skies. Oh, what's the word for that?
Well, the intent is to limit the amount of off-site glow
Yeah.
Ambient.
Yeah.
throughout the city.
Yep, and so again, I think that this kind of forces the conversation of how can you make both sides happy?
Mm-hmm.
We don't necessarily want spotlights shining up in the air from downtown, but we also don't necessarily want all the lights off at dark. So, Sandy.
And when it says, with consideration to maintaining the vibrant character and safety,
Okay.
I think we need to mention safety.
Yeah,
in the
that was the
downtown
main,
area.
that was the main issue with the original
Yeah.
thing that we had with the downtown lighting.
I think one of the other triggers that went into that, sorry,
Yep, yes, sir.
is when you looked at that goal number 5 in the actions, when it said responsibility, when they listed city council, that was tied to the develop additional initiatives as opposed to enforcing what's already in place. So I think you change who the responsibility is as well, because my understanding as I listen to the conversation is the goal is, we're not doing away with it, we're not eliminating it.
No, no,
We're
no,
just
no.
not making the planning board feel like we're telling them that they have to dig deeper and put more into place.
Right.
I think we have I think the rules and regulations that are currently within our zoning are very clear, very clear. And I think that when enforced appropriately, they will essentially have that same effect that we're looking for. Do we feel is everyone happy smiles in this room on that? I'm looking around. Happy smile.
So, yeah, because I had the actions, rather than develop, it was just enforce the outdoor lighting
Enforcing.
regulations, which is kind of in line with.
So
what you
Yeah.
change
said.
that to enforcing.
Jeff?
Yeah, well, I like the idea of enforcing the existing regulations part, and I also like having the term dark skies in the narrative.
Yep.
I also, I agree with not having a specific group identified or that, so I think, I think the way you've changed the wording seems
Good,
appropriate.
okay. I feel pretty good about that then. Excellent. So that's what we'll move forward with on that. And again, I don't think that we're in any way trying to get rid of it, just enforce it and increase awareness, so.
Yeah, and I think that, I know that some of the conversations that I've been made aware of are out there, it's like, oh, they're doing, no,
Yeah.
the goal isn't to do away, it's just not to,
Support what we already have, not keep creating more things to
Not
enforce.
not feel like we're, support what we're doing, we don't need to further intrude onto personal liberties in order to meet our objectives.
And it's not, anyway.
I'd like to just make one comment. I think,
Mhm.
that the idea that the intent was to darken the downtown, that never was the intent.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The intent was basically to have some standards in place to minimize the off-site glow, so I think that's important. Important to clarify that the idea was of the past sign ordinance that was before the council and what we've discussed in the planning board never was to remove lighting from downtown
Right.
and darken it. Basically, what you see is what you still see.
Yep.
It's just this new development occurred, it's
So we
just,
have some regulations for the new people.
Yeah.
Got it.
And I think in fairness, well, I agree with you, Jeff, I think there were people that was their intent, and that was, which is where the conflict is coming from. And I think that's what council's saying. We don't want to artificially add our voice to that part of the conversation. Because even as Al pointed out, this was not 100% unanimous coming out of planning board. There was differences in opinions within planning board at the time too.
And
So-
Sophie, should we refer to it as the Dark Sky Initiative or Dark Sky Standards?
I think standards.
Because we had
Yeah.
standards and then, so let's stick with Dark Sky
Standards?
Yep.
Standards.
Yeah, we don't have an initiative in place, we're just gonna remove that word. Again, I had could have swore we had adopted something, but I realized it was because it came from the Energy Conservation Plan. So that's what was adopted. Okay, if we're good on that, we'll move forward. Goals and objectives and action plans, local services. Page 18, goal number 7, actions, first bullet point. Continue to improve our city's solid waste and recycling services to be more efficient and effective with consideration of safety, wildlife, and accessibility. I don't have it directly in front of me what it said before, but I think it was create a solid waste and recycling plan. Again, I think we already have these pieces in place. We just want to continue to improve them.
Oh, sorry.
Page 18.
Okay, sorry. Goal 7, ensure all residents have the ability to dispose of refuse in a clear and efficient manner. And
Yeah.
action was create a solid waste and recycling ordinance and management plan.
And again, I think those things already exist, so there's no reason to,
To improve.
we can improve them, we can make them better, but to create, again,
That
it's
makes
just,
it sound like
Continually
we're-
revisit the existing
Yeah.
plan.
Okay, yeah, because I'm like, ooh, we're recreating a whole,
yeah, we don't, exactly, like, I feel like it was
Oh.
just a little bit more than what it needed to be. So,
right. Nope.
just making that a little bit more, approachable.
Yep.
And it gives room for growth, and again, continuing to do better versus we don't like what we're doing, redo. All right, goals and objective and action plan, public facilities and infrastructure, page 19, goal number 3, objectives, add a bullet point. So,
Okay.
continuing to monitor of environmental impact of our stormwater system on Rock Creek and our surroundings. This is something that I would like to see added, and this is just a personal thing, but specifically after we started our stormwater project and it become a lot more effective, now there's a lot more water running into Rock Creek, and there's already, we had the green team make a presentation of increase in nitrates, E. coli, multiple things, so I think that's something that should be monitored. And again, just not necessarily like, oh God, redo it all, but
No, just continue.
yeah, and I think it's just good to keep that in a focus, even if it's a small scale. Yes, Patty?
Oh, just, is it continue to monitor environmental impact, minus the of, or continue monitoring
Oh, yep,
the environmental impact or whatever? Just a verbiage thing.
Nope.
yep, no, thank you for that.
Monitor
Continue to monitor
Yeah.
the environmental impact of our stormwater system on Rock Creek and our surroundings. Yep,
Okay,
So, and then that's gonna fall in under here.
yep, just get that added in.
okay, that's good.
Housing, so page 30, census of Red Lodge housing units, first sentence, just an edit. This came from Patty. A 3% increase versus an 3% increase, so just a minor thing. Page 32, opportunities for housing, again, just a minor edit. This came from the Community Foundation and Sandy, changing the year to 2016.
Oh, from the
Simple.
2020,
From 2022, I think, or I can't remember what date.
well, yeah, there's a, in 2021,
Yeah,
or in okay, the housing needs assessment 2022, okay.
so read, the Red Lodge Area Community Foundation completed a Carbon County housing needs assessment in 2016, which is their accurate date. So just a minor,
Here.
yep, just a fix. Public facilities and infrastructure, page 56, water system additional. Okay, so some of this got, this was Patty's ad, I don't know what this one was, I thought I had just sent the most updated one to Dave, but
Wait,
you can look up on the screen if you need to
Yeah.
see it visually.
The third, yeah, that's,
But, yeah, I don't know, but this is the one that the most current one, and I will send this to you for this
Okay.
evening. And I just sent it to you, I'm not sure if I,
no, I pressed the one you just sent.
I'm just pulling up the
So
original.
so weird. Okay, let me just do this.
You want to print it out?
Well, yeah.
It's easier to edit on there, got it.
I looked at home.
I have multiple copies rolling around, probably.
Okay, so page
Yeah, I do have
50.
multiple copies. All right, so just, bear with me, guys, again, this has been a week.
Well, thanks for
Doing
all
my
this.
best to get this all
So many
together.
times.
So behind you, you'll see a 16-inch bypass has been approved and in process of installation to increase water flow to Red Lodge Country Club Estates. This is a very rough addition that I would like to have Mike Maples clean up before it goes in tonight.
Perhaps you should not be specific on 16-inch, you should just say bypass.
No, it is a 16-inch
Oh, no.
pipe
And that's how it's been very heavily referred to as that.
for 25 years.
And,
There's a reason, there's
yep.
a reason.
so I think that that is a mention worth having, just because that is our additional needs, and yes, it's in progress, but it's a need that we have seen and probably should just address. That was a Patty recommendation, so thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Page 57, fourth paragraph, third bullet point.
Whoa.
I know, sorry.
57.
Okay.
Page 57,
Per third bullet,
fourth paragraph, third bullet point.
okay,
There was just an edit that it was into, and it was spelt wrong. So just a quick little edit.
oh, in ton,
Yep,
in ton,
Mhm.
gravity.
So real easy fix. Recreational resources, page 79, Whistler Observatory, remove
Scroll
the
down.
entire section.
Let me go page
79.
79,
Mhm.
means it's page 80. Here.
Right, yep, sorry, I was trying to keep it really consistent with what the actual
Yeah,
document
no,
was.
the document page is
So,
79. Okay,
Um,
so where the Whistler Observatory,
Is, my recommendation is to remove it, and this is why. Removing this, one, it's already included within our public park section, so it already gets its recognition. And it's also included in the section above in recreational, and that seems more appropriate. The observatory specifically, the reason I don't think it should be included, it's managed by a private group for something like the pool, which has its own
city,
budget, it's a city-managed place. It also seems that we should not put focus on one organization, as we have multiple private parties that help us manage parks throughout the city.
yeah, that was my takeaway from that.
And then, so instead, including a paragraph, of an emphasis on our MOUs and partners across the board. And I think that addresses that as well as gives credit to everybody.
Right, well, like, yeah, because if we're doing the Whistler, then we need to incorporate Pride Park with the garden party and how much they get.
Right, and again, or, you know, the soccer fields, or,
Right.
again, there's so
Minor
many
parks,
different
all
parks
many.
that have, I mean, Lions Park, they do the mowing, like,
Yeah,
it's just,
every single, the ice skating rink, then, I think that is,
Every
but it,
MOU.
yep, exactly. So then I did add this, and again, open to recommendations for change on it. Page 78, in the park section, adding this paragraph above figure 19. The city of Red Lodge partners with many organizations to continue to improve our public parks. Through memorandums of understanding, the city establishes agreements with community organizations for their specific uses of the parks, and they contribute to the development, maintenance, awareness, and improvements to best serve not just the organizations, but the public at large. The cooperative efforts of the City Public Works Department, the Parks Board, the City Council, and the MOU partnerships, the city parks remain an invaluable asset to our community. From there, we can also include that picture of the Whistler Observatory, as they are one of those MOU holders.
So it should say continue, something like the city of Red Lodge partners.
with many organizations to
Well,
continue.
in other words, that's just a statement. This is a growth policy, so we should continue
Continue.
to support
Oh,
Oh,
To support many organizations,
the city of Red Lodge
wait, the city of.
partners.
the
well, I
city of
think it's
Red Lodge
okay to have a
partners,
statement in there. We make a lot of statements throughout the growth policy. This isn't like an action or objective.
With many
This is just within our park
Just a
section.
statement.
Yep. So basically, when it goes into, again, specifically our recreational resources,
And it says it, right, I mean, the very first, the city of Red Lodge partners with many organizations to continue to improve.
Yep.
Like, I feel like that,
It's in there.
yeah,
Okay.
just
remember.
partners, lowercase. or?
Oh,
is
yeah,
it the
no,
beginning
thank you,
of it?
that's a good,
Okay, I'm sorry.
good catch, good catch.
I know, it's like, is that an organization?
I think I had started that
I was like, is that
sentence
City Hall
with
is
partners of the city,
Yeah.
but then, yeah.
Get in on that one.
Okay, so are we good with that addition?
I don't
Do you
know, hang
think-
on, let's go back through notes.
I like that.
We got grammar police over here.
I'm okay with that. I appreciate the grammar police, because
I don't know why.
sometimes my brain is not in it to win it, so.
I am not a teacher, so I'm just like,
Jeff, do you feel that that's a good representation?
with the MOU.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree, 'cause, I mean, that was my takeaway with that, having that one in there, it was like, well, then are we going to incorporate every single MOU that the city has with all the different parks that we?
Yeah, I just felt like it was kind of a unnecessary highlight, and more so, I think it's really important to highlight those MOUs, because
MOUs.
that is something that we're putting a lot of emphasis on here in the near future of
Correct.
cleaning up, correcting, and again, supporting. So, I think that's important to include.
Mhm.
I love that. Yeah, and Sid, you may have mentioned this, but after the third sentence, establishes agreements with community organizations for the specific uses of the parks as well as continuous development, or continues the development, I think just
Where are you
flip-flop.
looking? That was a great one.
Sentence 4
Do you remember?
starts parks as well as continue the development, or continue that development.
Oh, man, I'm real, hold on. So, the fourth sentence?
The city, or park, yes.
Well as
Okay, so
continues
for
the
the MOUs,
development.
the city establishes agreements with community organizations for their specific uses of the park,
And they,
as well as,
oh, you're saying add an as well as.
well, it's already in there, it says, as
Oh.
well as,
Sorry, I think I edited that.
that's weird,
Just
as
flip flop the with
well
continue.
as
Continue.
continue the development.
Yeah, instead of the continue.
So here
I
we
think
go.
how I had
Here, look at
changed
me.
it was,
Here's my grammar here.
just real quick, I think as I changed it, for their specific uses of the parks, and they contribute to the development versus as well as.
That makes-
Just a little bit
Just kidding, we'll
Cleaner and more
Okay,
concise.
great, thank
Right,
you.
well,
I
Yep.
can see that.
Sorry, I'm working off again, I don't know what happened with a double up on,
No, you know what, good on you.
Yes, we did it
We'll
all.
clean it up, you just throw it in there.
It's awesome, yeah.
and I think that's pretty much it for the amendments. Was there anything else that, I know there was concerns with the urban renewal districts, and I don't necessarily agree with Jody on that one in terms, and also, like, it was a little bit more of a broad conversation versus an actual edit, and I feel like we're in the position right now where we're making specific edits.
There was one, sorry, and maybe it's just me and not being able to understand the way it was written, but on page 16, goal number 2, second bullet point, to me, I was kind of like, I read it at the meeting the other night, and I meant to say something, and then it was, life.
Yeah.
But it says, preserve access to public lands in Rock Creek by creating and pursuing easements to increase the access. Where the first sentence says preserve access, but then we're increasing the access. Does it mean just, is there another
So
way?
it
that
looks
we-
like there should be an
That's similar
and.
to the other things, we've done it more.
So many times I'm just like, what, how are we preserving access and then pursuing easements to increase the access?
There's already
Is there a way, like,
high watermark.
right, is there a way that we can word that?
Hold on one second, I'm
And,
getting there.
and it's not just easements, because like the Bastion acquisition,
Yeah,
the Rocky Fork acquisition increases access.
yeah.
If we succeed in getting,
Eagles Nest.
Eagles Nest, that increases acquisition.
Okay.
Are we on actual page 16 or?
Actual,
Okay,
page
thank you.
16, not
does
scrolling
the
page 16.
easement?
Page 16.
Is the bottom last goal.
Preserve access, the bottom last goal.
And then it's the second bullet point,
I don't
preserve.
need you
And I
all.
read it, and maybe, like, I'm just reading it, I'm like, kinda like, can we word that? Preserve access to public lands on Rock Creek by creating and pursuing easements to increase the access.
I think preserve access,
We're
Am I
required to do
overthinking
anyway.
it?
No?
We're required to preserve access to Rock Creek by
Right.
state law.
Yes.
so I think it would just,
Easement is a different story.
I think the way we could rewrite that, and I'm just gonna have to, hold on, I'm gonna copy paste here real quick.
No worries, that was the only.
I like it, no, I see where your head's at, and I just wanna make sure we're all on the same page. And this is why I did not send out the finalized document. No. All right, so we're on page 16. Trying to bounce between two documents here.
I mean, I can kind of understand, but I just feel like it was,
Goal to provide residents with high-quality trails.
yes, go, no, please.
I think the way I read that, I think I agree with what Dave was alluding to is, there are places where there's existing access, and we want to preserve
We want to
those.
preserve those existing accesses.
But we also want to create opportunities for additional access by pursuing easements or acquiring property
As it comes,
as Dave was alluding to, those parcels that he alluded to, so,
okay, so how can we better?
I'm in the process of writing it out right now.
Okay, all right.
And improve.
Okay, I
In
have a,
addition, to
Hold on one
look for
second.
opportunities to expand.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Before we keep adding. Okay.
just as an idea, if the city decides to annex Woodlands on Rock Creek, there are accesses there
Mm-hmm,
within the subdivision that are private accesses.
mm-hmm.
And it might be a requirement to make it an easement instead of a private.
Right, so that would
Right,
absolutely
so-
fit with pursuing easements to increase access.
That would be an easement, so.
Okay.
So that's a good example.
I feel like, yeah.
So here's how I would read it.
Okay.
And again, you guys can see it on the screen if you want to read along. Improve access to public lands in Rock Creek by creating and pursuing easements to increase the access, acquiring property, and improve the current accesses,
Or just accessibility.
accessibility. Okay.
Did you lose the preserved existing, or is that?
I think that's just, let's see that, and preserve existing.
Existing access, and preserve existing accessibility.
Increase, we'll do this, because I don't like having that many accesses either, I hear ya.
Because I was kind of like, the first two words completely contradicted the last part.
So improve access to public lands in Rock Creek by creating and pursuing easements to increase the accessibility, acquiring property, and preserving.
And I would reverse the order on that. I would say, protect access to public lands by preserving existing,
Okay,
and then in addition to existing, continue to look for opportunities to expand.
okay, say that one more time.
Yep, protect.
I would protect access to public lands by preserving existing. Then you can tweak out the words. By preserving existing,
For creating.
and in addition, look for opportunities to expand, or something. You can,
I like the idea of actually pursuing easements.
Yeah.
look to expand by
We'll do this.
pursuing
We don't
easements.
necessarily need to do that. Protect access to public lands by preserving existing access to Rock Creek and increasing
Yeah.
access by creating and pursuing easements, acquiring property. I think that would be all you have to say there.
Okay.
Okay, protect access to public lands by preserving existing access to Rock Creek and increasing access by creating and pursuing easements and acquiring property.
And rather than increasing, which sounds like a dictate, I would say
Yeah.
look for opportunities to increase, because they may show up, they may not.
Like, yeah,
And pursue.
pursue
Yep, I'm good.
opportunities. Yeah, I agree, because otherwise it's like we're going out and be like,
Give me your land.
give me your, give me your easement. We're gonna do that.
Don't put the fear in the people.
Did you say continue to protect access? Oh, you wait, okay, protect access to public lands by preserving existing access, got it, never mind.
Protect access to public lands by preserving existing access to Rock Creek and pursuing opportunities to increase access by, are you pursuing too much?
What you can do, I like to pursue there, but,
Through easements and acquiring property.
Property acquisition. Just have something.
Yes, thank you, Jeff, sorry, I was just reading through it like 4 times.
Right, well, I just,
I was just thinking it could maybe be shortened to say, just looking at the current wording, say, preserve current access to public lands in Rock Creek, and by pursuing easements,
And property acquisition.
acquisition, and other
Okay,
opportunities that increase access or something along those lines. But
okay, say that out loud one more time for me, I'm gonna put the two.
I think keep the way it starts out, so. it
preserve
says,
access to the public land.
preserve current access to public lands in Rock Creek, and by pursuing easements and opportunities for property acquisition to increase access.
Okay,
Does that shorten it?
I think it does, read your last part one more time.
Property acquisition.
It's not just property acquisition, no. He had a nice sentence, so,
To increase access as well.
Stop.
Okay, yeah.
Jeff.
What?
Can you say that last sentence, the last half of that sentence one more time for me?
I mean, yeah, you try. So I'm gonna kind of start from the beginning and then, so I get the.
Yep.
So it's preserve current access to public lands in Rock Creek, and by pursue easements and opportunities for property acquisition to increase access, or that increase access.
Okay, reading it all together now, that it's written down, because again, I have to see it on paper that doesn't exist. Preserve current access to public lands in Rock Creek, and pursue easements and opportunities for property acquisition that increase access. That sound okay? A little clunky?
No.
Sounds good.
It's good?
Yeah, I just need to make, I mean,
No, I appreciate it. Like, again, this is what this is for, so this is good. Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone. Teamwork. That was a lot of work for everybody. Especially my brain.
you're doing great, you're doing great.
Okay. Any other notes that we saw? I know that Patty sent me a few questions, and because we have Jeff here, it might be good to go through those. We did also receive a letter from Jeremy Battles about the discussion. I do think we should address this before, the evening. So, Patty, let me pull up your email, because you had some good questions. And I think, again, some of them are pretty easy to answer, too.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Just me not knowing the backstory.
And policy review, where's that attachment? We had to go through a few different attachments, didn't we?
Mhm. And I have an extra copy if you
So
want.
I kind of feel like
hard
this
copy.
is more, like, I'm reading through
Jeremy.
Jeremy's email right now.
Okay, so let's just jump to that.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Just wanted to voice a comment on the growth policy for the discussion tonight. I encourage the council to keep and enhance the language around appropriate outdoor lighting. Resort towns all over the world, or the world over, because why not, including towns similar size such as Whitefish, Moab, others, recognize that night sky is a natural resource to be preserved, a part of the natural resources that draw tourists to our town year after year. Practically speaking, this means following federally and internationally recognized principles of appropriate outdoor lighting. Lighting must be useful, targeted, controlled, color, low level. I feel these principles are eminently reasonable, and as a future-leaning document, the growth policy should cite and embrace those reasonable principles as it looks towards the growth of the Red Lodge area. This, of course, does not mean eliminate outdoor lighting. Such arguments are specious and, in my opinion, not made in good faith. It simply means following reasonable light standards and, like the 5 principles by limiting unnecessary, tacky, disruptive lighting. A good example of good lighting, in fact, is Alpine Basin Development. The lighting there is excellent and follows the 5 principles. And again, I believe that is something that's already addressed within our zoning.
That's
so.
what I was
Yep.
trying to get at. I kind of feel like it's
Yeah,
already.
I think we're, I think we have this covered, and I feel very comfortable addressing that in particular tonight, where we feel that our current zoning regulation has adopted these principles, and,
Sure, yeah,
And acted on them. Alpine Basin was one of
ex-
those.
and that's exactly
Right,
it.
so that's
Alpine
sort of
Basin is a
we've
good
already-
example of it working when it's enforced.
Yeah.
And
So-
that's the signage in Title VIII that addresses it in zoning, is that what refers to this, is that right?
What are you talking about?
Oh, in our zoning,
Yeah, so in zoning, there is a massive chapter on lighting regulation.
lighting regulation, okay.
Yep.
That's the title of that section, that.
I don't know if that's the exact title, I think it's,
Okay.
but it is lighting
Sure,
standards, I
lighting,
think, is the exact
Right.
language.
But the fact that it has already been enforced with the Alpine Basin, then clearly.
Yep, it shows that the system works, so.
Great.
All right, so a couple of quick questions. One, there's a few city edits that we could probably give over to Dave for editing, on the city Red Lodge Growth page. It has the same paragraph twice in a row.
Where's that?
And I'll
This
give
is
you-
not in the growth policy, this is just,
The
oh,
city page?
On the city.
I'm gonna just stop
the
and share.
Red Lodge policy page.
And then, so I'm gonna just skip that Red Lodge website stuff, because
Okay.
it's not too
I'll do
pertinent to
it
this.
later. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So page 21, goal number 6, pursue climate and energy efficiency. First box, what does this mean to promote climate resiliency? Specifically, just making, it's more for our energy conservation plan, I think that's a good reflection back
Okay.
to just making climate smart decisions. And again, promoting those kinds of decisions throughout our community, just to be a little bit more resilient when it comes to solar, yeah, impacting the environment, et cetera. Do you feel that's a decent statement or good reflection?
I just didn't know if it was a political statement or so, I didn't.
And even so, we are in politics, Patty.
Yeah.
We can forward that other to me, I don't have it.
No, exactly, I'll put this up on the
I
screen
was
now.
also just
I'm not
looking
sure.
at, from, Councilmember Ronnie, that was something about the, under community entrance and zoning. Was
Mhm.
that addressed as one of your changes, or?
I'm not making a change on that.
Where's that one?
So Jody had sent an email. Oh gosh, I have so many emails. from
Okay,
you
wait.
I know
guys.
we have.
She has under
Um,
skies,
Yep, and then she has under goals, dark skies, under goals, solid
Solid
waste,
waste,
under
it
community
was the
entrance.
third one that I was curious.
I don't agree with rezon, well, okay, so does this growth policy have anything to do with rezoning? Like, is that where we're at?
It should not, it's a growth policy,
That's where,
and zoning should always be, reviewed after a growth policy, but.
okay, wait. What, under community entrance, let me go back to that. Community entrance, okay. Now I gotta scroll through all of
Sense, that
them.
makes sense.
I don't, every time I read through it, there's one thing where I'm like, I have to read 3 or 4 times, I'm like, there's a lot of that, but.
Okay, so I'm just gonna read this out loud. This is what Jody had mentioned under community entrance.
I gotta find community entrance.
Yes, this is why having page numbers and such is really helpful. I don't agree with the rezoning that area, or I don't agree with rezoning that area and changing it from light industrial to commercial when we have nowhere else, or for those existing businesses to move. I don't agree with displacing current businesses. There is no infrastructure up at the airport, so that is not current viable option. Since it is a city entrance, all new businesses will have to go through a conditional use. So the planning board will have to say in the design and use of the new businesses. So this zoning change is not required at this time. I would move to remove the requirement of changing zoning of the community entrance from light industrial to commercial.
Is that-
I don't know where she's,
Does it actually say that somewhere?
That's what I'm
I
trying to
don't
find
think
right
it
now.
does. So I would imagine this would be under land use. I'm gonna
So-
just,
But then I'm looking like goal 4, ensure that the city's zoning regulations provide for safe, efficient development are in the best interest. But I also kind of feel like the very first objective says, continue to review and update the city's zoning regulations so it will comply with state statutes. Am I
Was
in
it
the
this
wrong?
document that she was referring to? 'Cause I
It
remember
was.
we had it in council.
And that's why I was curious to see
It was what the council.
exactly where it is, what page. maybe we should find that out for tonight.
Because I'm trying to find it right now, and I'm not seeing it, at least not in land use.
Community
see it
entrance,
anywhere?
that was.
I think it might be under the section that's, so there's a short paragraph about community entrance.
So not objectives and actions, but
Yeah, there's, yeah, I,
the actual, yeah, I think that's where she's putting it, and again, none of that is like a requirement.
Yeah, that's a directive, that's not.
Yeah, it's more
Yeah, no,
for
I feel like
context. Residential, central business district, community entrances, okay, I'm just gonna,
What
it is
is-
page 35,
Cool,
Thank you.
okay, cool, good job, because I was only on page 22 at the point.
35.
Oh, okay,
okay, and so,
community entrance.
so the city currently allows for light industrial uses in the commercial entrance zoning. I think that should also be changed. Is it commercial entrance zoning or community entrance zoning?
It's community.
Yeah, so that needs that added anyway, so good work, Jody, bringing that to your attention.
The city currently allows for light industrial use in the community entrance zoning district, commercial entrance zoning district.
Yeah, it's actually community entrance zoning district.
Well, because then she says, and commercial entrance zoning district.
Well, I'm not even looking at what she's saying, I'm looking at the actual document at the moment, so, give me one second. What page did I just say we were on, 35?
35.
Thank you.
Yeah, the zoning is community, isn't it community entrance north and south?
it's
Yeah.
community entrance, I think it's, yeah.
C3N and
North,
C3S.
It's community.
So,
Okay.
yeah, because that's what I was like, does the C stand for community or commercial?
Yeah, so that's just an edit that we will need to have Great West make, easy edit. But, so it allows for light industrial uses as a conditional use. Industrial uses may conflict with the goal of beautification and community entrances. The city should review the zoning codes and possibly amend the zoning code to ensure that there are mitigation measures in place for artisan manufacturing uses, such as requiring landscaping, emphasizing, yada, yada, yada. Emphasizing artisan manufacturing is more appropriate than light industrial uses for the community entrances. The principal entrances to Red Lodge are from the north and south of the highway. East entrance and west entrance come from 78 and 308.
Mhm.
Each has its own character and should have unique zoning and development standards. So again, I think her concern is that it would go to a artisan manufacturing versus light industrial, which realistically, same thing.
Pretty much, except with artisan, it emphasizes more personal,
Businesses.
types of products that are made by a single person or maybe
Small businesses,
Small business.
yeah,
small.
not making mass
Is
production.
the Spoons artisan, or is that light industrial?
Earlywood.
Earlywood.
Wooden spoons.
Yeah, Earlywood by
Earlywood
the airport.
is a business, they create a bunch of wooden spoons and spatulas, and
Yeah, that would probably be artisan.
so Crazy Creek, would that be light industrial?
So they're,
They're just a distribution.
but they're also grandfathered in, so, I mean.
But if they chose to move,
So
I
that,
think, even from the standpoint of the brewery and the distillery, that falls within the definition of artisan. And I think one of the reasons, I guess, I thought about using that term is other communities are utilizing that term to better describe levels of manufacturing. And on the planning board, I know we've had discussions on, well, what does light manufacturing mean? What is
actually
it?
means.
What
Yeah.
is it? And so by taking out the word light industrial, or light manufacturing, I should say, and replace it with artisan manufacturing, it kind of fits better with what the kinds of manufacturing that is occurring within the community
Right.
entrances. And probably what we would, as a community, would like to see in terms of being small scale, individual businesses or with small
Right.
a small workforce as opposed to what people commonly think is manufacturing.
So,
John Deere's not rolling in.
I think,
real quick, I don't wanna lose the train of thought before we get too deep into the conversation, because we're 10 minutes away. One, I think that artisan, manufacturing needs to be clearly defined. And I know that I had this issue when I was on planning board. I'm like, well, what's wrong with light industrial versus artisan? And they're like, well, this is the nicer version of it. This is the more, again,
Appealing.
small business, appealing businesses that we want to have in this area. I do think I agree with Jody in regard to, I don't necessarily think that light industrial uses should be taken away. I think that there are protocols put in place here where the city should review zoning codes and amend those to ensure that there are mitigation measures to make sure it is attractive. So whatever you're doing inside of your building doesn't necessarily bug me as long as the outside of your building is attractive, right? So that is one thing that I do think I would side with Jody on. Now I will go to you, thank you.
oh, and I think beyond that, as we look at future state and ideal state, I think what that light industrial brings, maybe more so than just an artisan, or you talked about minimal employees. I look at it from a city robustness.
Mhm.
We need to have a diversity
Right.
of businesses, so light industrial is not necessarily a bad thing.
I feel,
But
If
I'm a
it's jobs, it's
yeah.
variety, it's,
Well, same with what Chelsea was saying, where I think they both need to be defined.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's a gray area between the two that clearly.
Okay, so I'm gonna just continue while you talk.
and it doesn't have to be absolutely, I mean, this is a guiding document, so there's some variance allowed in wording, and, you know, it's not scripture, but I do, if I step back and look at it from the big picture, kind of like the dark skies, hey, no, we're not doing away with it, but we're also not putting this anymore. I think, again, robustness from an economy standpoint, do we really want to say, we don't want those types of businesses there, or do we not, you know, we have to figure out, say, how do we incorporate these so that don't take away from everything else that's
Mhm.
there?
The question is, this is the growth policy, it's a guiding document, there's nothing should be in there regarding zoning except to review it.
Right.
And that's
I
where
just-
it
so-
really-
I think that we went overboard on.
Yeah, I think we can just remove that sentence that says emphasizing artisan manufacturing is more appropriate than light industrial uses for the commercial entrances.
And just to kind of skip ahead, what I anticipate for tonight, given that this is multiple pages and whatnot, what I anticipate is we'll print off multiple copies of this so that the audience has it available,
Yep.
since it's something we'll be discussing on.
Yeah.
And I anticipate the initial motion is gonna be, I move to make the changes as presented in blah, blah, blah. And then if there's discussion amongst council about they wanna tweak or change or add or something there, but I'd like to see
One more.
a motion that says, with these, you know, and that's not bad to have 3 pages for a 100-page document of these are the changes. And then go from there. So like I said, to get it cleaned up. And then, because you were talking about some edits or some grammar stuff, if it's all just in one document, move to I move to make the suggested changes, and then discussion from there.
Yeah.
But the other point, I guess, to consider and think about is when we're talking about the north entrance, it's also the urban renewal district.
Mhm.
And there are goals and objectives outlined in the urban renewal plan, and none of those talk about any kind of manufacturing. So
That's too bad.
there's a need for some consistency here in terms of aligning, at least within the north entrance, being aligned with the urban renewal district.
Well, and so like, how it says, you know, mixed uses, residential, office, artisan, commercial.
So that, I think that was another reason for replacing light manufacturing with artisan. You know, another example of an artisan type business is what's going on with the old pecannery.
Mhm.
You know, that's another example of an artisan type business. you know, with kinds of manufacturing kind of components associated with it. So I think,
So, let me see if I can kind of come to a happy middle here. One, community entrance zoning is specific to all 4 community entrances, right? This is not just specific to the north, because that gets down a little bit further in this section.
Or with the Yordi.
So I don't think that necessarily we want to say, because, again, end of the day, we do want to have the availability for light industrial within our community as well, as long as it has standards, right? So that's something that we do find important. I think that we can not necessarily say more appropriate than light industrial uses in the we can include that in potentially the urban renewal district section, to where in the urban renewal district section, we state their goals and objectives, which I think are pretty clearly stated within this document already.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we wanted to get into the northern entrance, just, you know, relying on the urban renewal district for some of that direction when reviewing zoning codes. Versus essentially, I feel like, again, if we're looking at this through the lens of someone who's not in it right now, 5 years from now, you're reading this document, you've never been to Red Lodge, you don't know what you're looking at. The way I would read that is, oh, we don't want light industrial in any of our entrances, right? So, again, just trying to keep that really clear and specific, and I'm not necessarily saying that we go against or contradict what the urban renewal district is saying. I think that, like in HOA and zoning, they can be more restrictive than general zoning, right? So, and that's kind of how my process works, is the more boards you have, the more restricted it gets. But I think that that's a way that we can, one, still say that we have this light industrial, we're not trying to get rid of it. We're not saying that it has to go away, but there will be the city should review our zoning codes and possibly amend those zoning codes to ensure that there are mitigation measures in place.
I think it actually says that.
And it does, and I think that's all we need, so.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that when we get too specific,
Mhm.
this is a guiding document, this isn't the place for specifics.
So I am going to,
I guess I would maybe, where it says our mitigation is in place, or in place, and then say such as artisan manufacturing or something. I think the idea of just having the idea of artisan manufacturing, I think is,
We want to plant a seed.
what's
Yep.
that?
You want to plant a seed.
Yeah, basically is, and this kind of gets to discussions we're probably gonna have at the planning board when the proposal comes before us. You know, does it fit criteria? I mean, how do you define what are the parameters around light manufacturing, and what are the parameters around artisan manufacturing? Trying to sort of narrow that down,
and I think, so we can include, give me a moment on this one while I'm just kind of re-editing as I go.
If the Alpaca Ranch wanted to create a facility that
Nate's
made alpaca products, is that artisan, or is it
Manufacturing.
Well-
light manufacturing, depending
So-
on their volume?
Where it
Like
fits
they
into
start
this
shipping all over the
conversation
world.
is that indeed the parameters you want to put around the planning board as they start that discussion? That's,
And,
hey, planning board, as you dive in, here's our guidance as the council who's charged with this.
I'm gonna try, again, I'm trying to make everyone happy here, so this is how,
Oh, good.
I know,
Red
I know. Hold, sorry. I'm just like, we got 1 minute
I
left,
just-
and I think I got the edit,
I
so.
just AI questioned the difference between artisan and light industrial. It's very interesting.
Okay, I'll let you read that in 30 seconds. So we have mitigation, I'm just gonna kind of jump in, possibly amend the zoning to ensure that there are mitigation measures in place for, or such as required landscaping and buffered yards, increased setbacks, et cetera. Then we can increase, or we can emphasize, I'm not there yet. So here's my plan. I'm gonna retype this. I'm gonna be here at 5 tonight. We have the appeals at 5:30.
We also have public works.
And there's gonna be two, just for the record, so it's gonna be.
Oh, there are
Yeah,
two now?
there's two. Good, means we don't have another extra meeting.
Right.
All right, well, I'll try and get this guy sent
So
to you
bring
guys.
food.
I'm gonna try and get this sent to you guys by 1:00. That's my plan.
Okay.
And we'll have copies printed for tonight. I have to go clean a house. Once I'm done with that, I will do this. And then I will work on getting Artisan in there, as well as not shaming our light uses, or light industrial. So,
I
But we
think,
need
I
clear
think the term is.
definition.
agreed, and I think that can come forward in zoning.
That's the hard
Here's your
part of the
AI
whole thing.
definition of artisan versus light industrial. So according to scale, light industrial is smaller than heavy manufacturing, so varying quantities. But artisan is small scale to micro scale production for limited run items. So I'm thinking like more, like, okay, so we're,
Or one-off type stuff.
exactly,
Yeah,
it's more
the spoons is
flexible.
now light industrial.
Right,
Well, here's another piece for me, is light industrial necessarily also manufacturing?
so.
Or
and
is
then-
it also just
Well, and it gives you,
crushing and-
it gives you all the different features, the scale of it, the methods, the product, the environmental impact. So, for instance, the environmental impact of light industrial, electronic manufacturing can pose some environmental risks, whereas artisan, smaller environmental footprint, often using sustainable materials and local sourcing. The cost for light manufacturing are lower per unit versus artisan, which are higher cost per, items, just due to the intensity of production and quality. And then light industrial locations can often be located closer to urban areas due to minimal environment. And artisan can actually operate small workshops within residential or commercial districts.
I like
depending
that.
on zoning. Yeah, so the focus of the two, light industrial is efficient, cost-effective, market and demand, whereas artisan is more craftsmanship, quality, unique, and cultural preservation.
I'd say like manufacturing is an employer versus artisan is not.
Right, so I think of light manufacturing as Earlywood, whereas I think artisan is an Etsy shop that,
Rob, who makes rolling pins.
right, like what Jody has in her shop versus what Earlywood has up there. You see what I mean? Like they're similar but different scale.
Question is, we don't care if we have either one.
Right.
We don't want to prioritize one over the other.
No,
Exactly.
No.
They're really, and I mean, they
I
are,
would see light industrial and artisan and call it good.
Yeah, as
I
long as
think
it
so.
looks good, that's all that matters.
right, and that's where I was saying, light industrial though, they
As long as
said
it looks
can-
good and it's not creating a negative health impact or impact to our infrastructure.
Right.
Like, that's really the
gist
core,
of it.
yeah.
We're not going heavy industrial, that's where it was like, that's the whole warehouse,
Fumes.
big, yeah. Water issues.
There should be clear definitions included, okay, I think I might have finally got this, in our zoning for different manufacturing uses such as light industrial
Thanks, AI.
and artisan.
Only from a public education teacher.
Man.
My students are doing it. No.
There's a time and a place.
Okay, how about this, and then we can break. So again, going back to that sentence, the city should review the zoning code and possibly amend the zoning to ensure that there are mitigation measures in place, such as required landscaping and buffer yards, increased setbacks, et cetera, to improve our entrances to be more attractive. Because again, that can just go for anything.
any
It
of
could be
them.
a restaurant, it could be a business, it could be whatever. There should be clear definitions included in our zoning code for different manufacturing uses such as light industrial and artisan manufacturing.
Oh.
Are we good with that?
Boom.
Jeff, happy? Happy, happy, happy. Look at me, I'm so good at this. So good at making everyone happy.
Yes, Your Highness.
I just need time to think about it.
There was a question raised during the last meeting about how you guys would feel about starting this meeting at 10:30 as opposed to 10.
Thank you, yes. I am
In my
fine.
mind, I was thinking it started at 10:30 and then I pulled it up and it was at 10. I was like, oh.
I am fine with it. My day's already shot, so.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yep.
only have another month and a half of it being
And then it switches to something else altogether, so. Then we work to winter hours for.
winter hours,
Yep,
school classroom, school hours.
school hours, all
So
right.
If you guys bring that up tonight, we'll make that
10:30,
going forward.
okay.
Forward.
And then, did Jody mention anything for, public health and safety?
She didn't say anything about public health and.
No,
No.
that meeting starts at,
It's
but there's
admin and
15
finance.
minutes, Sheila, so an
Admin.
8 o'clock, a 9:15, and a 10:30.
All right,
So we're
Oh,
giving
nice.
us 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that was changed.
Jody and
Okay.
Patty time to sign.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
because now we have to do
So we
Jody and
don't
Patty
have
times
to-
too.
Because we're both,
So we don't
we're thrilled to
disrespect
have all
you.
of you, so whatever accommodations we can make to make it work is delightful.
all right, I am going to adjourn this meeting.